Hey guys, it's Steven de Jesus Carrion here, and in today's video, I want to talk about insomnia. So, insomnia, or essentially having a lot of trouble falling asleep or sleeping in the middle of the night and not being able to go back to sleep, is a huge problem that a lot of people suffer from. And really, insomnia can affect us both emotionally and physically too. And so, because of that, I have the great pleasure to introduce to you guys today Sveti Williams. And Sveti Williams is a sleep expert. She's a member of the Australian Sleep Association. She's also happens to be a leading sleep advocate for people, which is great. And she utilizes a very novel approach where she utilizes subconscious psychology to help people overcome their insomnia problems. So I'm sure that you guys are gonna love this video. Try definitely to stay till the end because you're gonna get a lot of really valuable advice on how to have better sleep so you can have a better lifestyle. Sveti, I actually have to add you, so I'm gonna do that right now. Without further ado, guys, I'm just gonna split my screen with Sveti, and hopefully I'm not gonna have any technical problems because it's actually the first time that I try to split the screen on a live with somebody. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that. All right. Get a request right now to join us here so we can get started. Hopefully we'll have Sveti here in a moment. Let me know if you're having any problems. All right, I think it's connecting.
Yes.
All right, there you go. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can see you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here on this live today.
It's my pleasure. Yes, thanks so much for having me here with you.
Absolutely. And guys, for all of those you watching, if you're having any problems with like seeing us with the screen or with the volume, whatever, the audio, just let us know in the comments, okay? Just so we know, we want to make sure that you guys can see us good and can hear us well. So with that, let's get started. Sveti, why don't you tell us a little bit about sort of like what got you motivated or interested in helping people overcome their insomnia problems?
Well, what got me into this is when I suffered from insomnia myself. So this was my turning point to actually, fix my own insomnia that I struggled with for many years. And then I learned to, that how crucial sleep is. And because of that, I fixed my sleep and I started prioritizing my sleep in many ways. And then I fixed it. And then people started coming to me to help them with their insomnia, and I started helping them too. So it became like a journey.
Absolutely, I'm sure. Okay, that's a great story. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. So in your experience, do you think that people, I feel like a lot of people know that they sort of like have problems with falling asleep, but I don't think that most people don't really understand what is causing them to struggle with falling asleep. They just say like, I'm just like that, right? However, insomnia is something that we develop, that can be developed by many different things. It's not something we're born with, right?
No, we're not really born with insomnia. We're naturally designed to sleep well, to sleep normally with be in tune with the rhythm of the earth and things like that, we do develop insomnia. You see, causes of insomnia, there's only 4 causes of insomnia. I'll tell you what they are: biological, psychological, emotional, and habitual. A biological is caused by side effect of medication, or very rarely it's a specific diagnosis that is actually a very rare disease, but that is very rare. So a lot of it caused by the sleep medication or by other prescribed medication that people take and which causes them insomnia. There's a lot of overdose happens with the prescription drugs as well, because of misuse and because of, you know, basically doctors mean well, however the patient doesn't always follow the instructions, or it's just sometimes it's just so much drugs in the system, prescription drugs, that people literally die from it. So that happens a lot. It's just basically we do develop it, and the root cause needs to be addressed, and mainly it's the root cause that people need to work on more than, you know, looking for the next medication or looking for the next you know, doctor to see and things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can people also develop insomnia by having bad lifestyles? Like, can they actually develop it by, like, you know, I think that there are other things like, you know, a lot of drinking or things like that, that kind of, you know, things that are very common right now in society.
Absolutely.
Activities that people do a lot.
Yeah, and this is how the habitual insomnia, because basically insomnia is a side effect. Okay, when you look at it that way, you need to find the root cause, and it is most of the time it's basically habitual or psychological. So basically people develop this, you know, I call them pathogenic habits. So we have immunogenic habits or pathogenic. I call them pathogenic health behavior or immunogenic health behavior. You see, so bad habits turn into lifestyle, and when we do continue with that lifestyle, you see, it turns into physical struggle, whether it is insomnia, whether it's weight gain, whether it's you know, mental illness and things like that. Not necessarily, I'm just talking in general, very general right now. So it does develop into physical struggle, and then later on, obviously, people seek for help and they get all these different diagnoses, right? And they get medication. They get into this vicious cycle that it's very difficult to get out of this cycle because there's so much in it. You know, there's so much going on in this cycle that people literally don't know where to begin to fix themselves. And what they do, they literally normalize that, thinking that's just me, and that's how I am. You see, but it's not normal. People forget what normal is. People forget what normal sleep is. They forget what normal sleep feels like. And they forget what normal weight is. They forget what normal emotional well-being is. They forget what being normal, just normal, is like, you see.
Absolutely. So it's essentially a combination of, you know, it's like a domino effect, right? Where you start doing one thing and that becomes a pattern in your life and eventually starts affecting other things. And it just comes to a point where you don't even know how it started, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things, right? And so how about, so that's sort of like the physical part. How about the emotional part? Is there an emotional negative effect that happens from lack of sleep?
Absolutely. When we experience poor sleep, our um, emotional well-being literally messed up, and that's not because you don't, because you feel tired. That's biologically. There are so many processes in the body that don't happen because we didn't sleep well or because we didn't get enough sleep. So basically that mechanism in our brain that needed to be restored during our sleep has not occurred, right? So that mechanism is inactive for the next day, for the entire day, right? It's not just one mechanism. There's a lot of mechanisms, including metabolic mechanism, right? Metabolic system is literally absolutely not working for the next whole day, and that's not just emotionally. Your resilience, your you know, coping mechanisms are just not switched on for the whole day if you had a poor sleep. And oftentimes people just don't actually make that connection between their psychological and emotional well-being to their sleep and their physical well-being the next day, you see. And this is why people continue to suffer, and they suffer and suffer for years and years, because something perhaps insignificant that happened in the past, And because of that, it was blown out of proportion in the mind. And that effect caused today's struggle and caused today's, whether it's weight gain, whether it's the need for medication for psychological stability, or whether it's the need for whatever the need people are having today, right? They it's caused by something that happened in the past, whether it's bad habits established years ago, whether it was some sort of trauma going on in the subconscious mind that was not registered or even remembered today by the conscious mind, and things like that. Is a lot could happen because of one little thing in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that because actually that touches a lot in what your expertise is, right, with psychology. So I think that a lot of people don't really realize how the mind works and don't understand that we have a subconscious mind that keeps storing information that we probably don't even remember, right? But things that probably happened to us in the past,
Yeah.
that is there. We just can't remember it, and it's actually having an effect, right, in some of the actions we take.
Absolutely.
Is that what you see with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. You see, let's say, I'll give an example of this. Let's see, let's say a person walking across the road, and they see this red car coming over so fast, and they get this fright. And basically, because of the fright, right, they get the shock, and the shock puts them into fight or flight response. So one of the actions triggered by fight or flight response is fight, run away, or freeze. Let's say a person freezes in that second, because you can't literally pick which action follows from that emotion, right? So person freezes in the middle of the road because there's a red car coming to them. The driver stops the car just before hitting that person, right? And nothing happens, like it's no accident, it's okay, right? The person experiences this massive shock, goes home, struggles for the day or week or so, with perhaps could have nightmares. Eventually this memory of that eases off, and person is okay, right? Is they okay? However, they begin experiencing insomnia, and they don't understand why they have an insomnia. But 10 years later, they still have an insomnia. But now that insomnia is accompanied by all kinds of psychological issues because of that memory of red car. And however, they don't realize that every time now in their subconscious mind, every time they see a red car, they relive in the shock, but it's not physically felt because the body learned to survive. And now the body thinks, I can see a red car, I'm not going to get killed, but I'm going to experience the emotional shock every time I see the car. Because you see, because the therapy was never there to get them out of that shock. You see, so the memory of the event might not be consciously recalled every time they experience it, because they can't understand the insomnia or whatever struggle they're experiencing today is caused by that accident, let's say event or accident. So and people don't even know that's a psychological trauma, but now in the subconscious mind it's there, and it's always there, right? It's always there. It's never not there, because they learn to cope with it, and unconsciously they don't see a red car as a danger anymore. But the trauma is there, you see. And what I'm trying to say is that the memory is there. And what I do, I take people and liberate them from the emotion from that memory, because everything we experience in life has an emotion to it every day. We experience hundreds, thousands of emotions, but in significant things like giving us very strong emotions like shock, emotions of love, emotions of grief, and things like that, whether they're positive or negative, it has a bigger impact and bigger triggers in our mind, subconscious mind. And later on we relieve this every time that trigger is visible or felt or heard or any somehow activated in our mind. So this is why people, oftentimes we don't even need to know what is the event that caused the struggle today. It's basically just getting them out of that place, just getting that emotion out of the way, because you see, you can't really recreate the, well, you can erase the memory of the event. You can literally play with the mind, and you can trick the mind into forgetting the event, or even recreating the event as if you were to create a new movie, for example. You see, it's like, go and edit the movie, and that's just a new episode, right? So you can do it. However, you need to firstly detach the emotion from that event initially, and then you can recreate. You can trick your mind into thinking that event happened with this ending that you prefer. Yeah, so just tricking the conscious mind, unconscious mind, and conscious too. And
okay,
yeah,
awesome, thank you. Yeah, that's really interesting. And what do you think that people can do, like the people that are watching us right now, the people that will watch the replay, you know, that some of them are probably struggling with some of these problems, but they don't know it, right? So do you have any tips for them in terms of, like, you know, how can people try to discern or identify what could be the cause if they're like, I'm having trouble sleeping, but I have zero idea what might be?
yeah,
I feel like most of the times, probably what they think it is, it's not.
yeah, exactly. Okay, yes, what they can do for themselves right now is identify one of these 4 causes of insomnia. Where is the problem biological? Is the problem psychological, emotional, or habitual? Once they establish what they think it is, they could be right in this regard, establishing the you know the origin of the problem, or origin of the root cause. For example, let's say, geez, I do have really bad habits, right? I intentionally stay up late, I intentionally drink coffee or drink alcohol at night, all this stuff, whatever that is. Or they can say, geez, every night I lie in bed and I feel this anxiety, or I feel this depression. You know, that could be psychological, you see. Or if it's emotional, they literally have these emotions come up, right? But that's emotional and psychologically go hand in hand, because they one triggers another, right? So psychological trauma triggers the emotional response, and the result is insomnia, loss of sleep, and or putting weight on and things like that. Because oftentimes gaining weight is also psychological. You see, they can have best habits in the world, but they can still gain weight or can't lose weight. You see, like, all this stuff would also be emotional, psychological. So if they understand what's the cause of the insomnia, they don't need to understand what exactly the emotion, what exactly the habits, what exactly the things. They don't need to establish that, because oftentimes it's not easy to establish. But they just need to understand what is one of these 4 categories that's preventing them from succeeding in their plan, right? Because right now, if they're having a struggle, they need to understand why. And once they understand, for example, let's say my problem is habitual, then they know what to do next. They need to find somebody who can help them with the habits, right? And doing it on their own is the longest journey they can actually engage in. However, or if they think the trauma is psychological, if they find that they lie in bed triggered by anxiety is to thinking too much of the future, right? Depression is a symptom of thinking too much of the past. It's inability to forgive, inability to forget, inability to move on. Being stuck could be all kinds of stuff, right? So if they understand one of these 4 things, they can then take a step in the right direction, rather than taking the pills and trying to forget the actual symptom right now. It's putting a band-aid on, things.
Absolutely. And I think that's really interesting also, because I feel like also insomnia sort of like exacerbates other health effects, right? That might be going on. Like, people are already suffering from depression or things like that. In my case, I work with people that want to lose weight and want to have a healthier lifestyle. And a lot of people don't understand that sleep has a huge, huge impact in your metabolic activity, as well as hormones in our body. That have a huge impact in our ability to burn fat, lose weight, be healthier, have a leaner body. So absolutely, do you think that that's true, that sleep can have an impact in all of that?
So much. You see, studies actually show that people who having hypertension, high blood pressure, and who are
Yeah.
on medication. They did study on these people. Those who did not sleep well, not before, when they took the medication for the high blood pressure, the medication was not working in the body. The body was not responding to the medication. So they had elevated blood pressure for the entire next day. And that happens more with women. Somehow, women respond to medication in that regard less than men, right? So that's just one of the examples. Oftentimes, depression medication doesn't work the next day if they had poor sleep. And this is not just me saying this, right? This is research. This is done on people, clinical research and studies done. And this is documented in medical journals. This is basically backed up by scientific evidence. So this is serious problem. So people having poor sleep, they end up having depression because they didn't sleep well. They take medication for the depression and medication just doesn't work. So what they do, they take higher dose of medication. They go to the doctor to get another medication. At the end, they end up with sleeping drugs, with antipsychotic medication because they're just so fed up of this situation. They get antidepressant medication and probably anti-anxiety medication there too, right? So plus, they're probably experiencing some other symptoms of, let's say, elevated blood pressure. So they get blood pressure medication, they get heart medication. So you see the cocktail of 10 drugs every day, and none of them work because they didn't sleep well. They started putting weight on. They started become psychologically, emotionally unstable. They lose their resilience towards day-to-day things. They lose their self-esteem. They probably have bad relationships now because they struggle emotionally. And this just gets such a deep and deep into this vicious cycle. I just really want to literally just get them out of this cycle and just begin with just one thing. You know, if you just fix one thing, other things get fixed too.
Absolutely, because it seems like people start with like one belief or one experience that sort of like marked them, right? And then once they start this domino effect, now they start forming other beliefs that are just going to take them down the same pathway. So then they end up in this perpetual cycle where they just keep forming more beliefs and more beliefs that keep feeding that negative perpetual cycle, right? Where that never ends. And so they just keep developing other things. And so medication certainly doesn't help. At least in my experience, I can tell everybody that some of these antidepressants or other medications that people prescribe, physicians describe, actually block pathways that are important for weight loss and just make it impossible for people. And like you said, once all these other negative side effects start building up, then people just get more negative, right? They hate their image now. So now they're like, I can't sleep. I don't like how I look in the mirror. I'm having depression. I'm probably a lack of energy during the day. I can't perform on my 100%. And it's just all these things just keep building up when all you need to do is sort of like sit down and just notice what's going on, right? What's going on in my mind? What's happening, right? We try to be more mindful, notice what's going on, what might be the source, and then try to go from there.
Yeah, and because you see, all the physical stuff you described, people go through, but they just they forget that all of this has an impact on our psychological, subconscious level, right? So all of these bad emotions experienced on daily basis, experience emotion of, I don't like myself, I hate myself, I hate my life, I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I'm too this, I can't sleep. All this stuff, it literally gets put into subconscious mind, and then it gets like a bigger, and then it's bigger and it's bigger, and again the problem never gets smaller, it only gets bigger. And because of that, they begin to experience the physical symptoms of pain, physical symptoms of tumors, even tumors. There's so much scientific evidence on causes of all these diseases because of this emotions, right? Emotional emotions that are trapped in the different parts of the body, and every organ in our body holds an emotion, right? Every time we experience emotion, it gets trapped in the body. Basically, emotion is energy in motion, and we are also an energetic being. We can't argue with that concept, because it's been, it's been established that we are energetic beings. So when this emotion travels through the body, it gets trapped. So we need to get that moving, right? This is why exercise helps. This is why walking bare feet helps, and this is why all these different things that people do really helps. It helps to some degree, just depending on you, depending how you hold of this, depending on the emotion itself, depends on the individual largely. However, there is a general aspect to this that explains all of this and gives us that knowledge of what really happens in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I feel like people forget that we're emotional beings before we are rational beings, right? We respond, we react with emotion. Like that sort of like that part on our brain can always take over when we feel a strong emotion over the part of our brain that thinks rationally. And I think that's something that a lot of people, a concept that many people don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
So that, yeah.
And this is
absolutely.
And this is why when people come to me and when I work with them one-to-one, they can see they have results immediately after one session, or could be 2 sessions, but this is why they have results so quickly, because this is what I do with them. I disregard everything. I don't even look at the habitual stuff straight away. Straight to subconscious psychology, straight there. If you get stuff moving there, the habits are easy compared to that stuff, right? You can fix habits consciously on your own, right? But you can't fix the stuff going on in your subconscious mind on your own. It's even for practitioners themselves, it's very difficult to do it on themselves. It just the brain just does not listen.
Absolutely. So essentially, to recap, people can there are things that people can do to find the root cause of the psychological root cause of their insomnia, right? So they should always, be mindful and try to notice about maybe past events in their life, right? That might have marked them or something. There's also medication that might also contribute. We also spoke about that. And what do you think that people should do if they sit down and they try to think and they think they know why, they think they know, they sort of like are able to pinpoint, right, some cause, some maybe traumatic event in the past? Do you have any tips for them on what they could do to try to improve their sleep, maybe little by little? I'm assuming that this is something that's not going to happen overnight, right? It's going to happen with practice.
Okay, so like I mentioned, first step is establishing one of those 4 causes of your insomnia. Let's say they say, look, I think I have good habits, I have a good diet, but they're still kind of not sleeping well, I'm not healthy. So let's say, as an example, this is like a case study. So let's say you've got your root cause, you believe, is caused by psychological distress. However, this is the first step, right? But for people to understand which event happened in the past is not very easy to do. Sometimes it's impossible. Sometimes it's not needed, because it really doesn't matter what caused it. You literally have no memory of that anymore. And if you're trying to guess what it is, you are wrong. You see, because guessing what's going on in the subconscious mind is just guessing with the conscious mind, which only has capacity of guessing between 5 and 9%, right? So instead of trying to guess what event could have caused it, or what, because that could have been 20 years ago, that could have been something from your childhood, right? That could have been something you just don't know what it could have been. You could be mistaken a good memory, a bad memory for the good memory, right? You could think, to establish exactly which event is not, sometimes it's not possible, but establishing one of the 4 causes is quite possible, and this is what they need to do. And then once they understand if it's psychological, get a practitioner to literally shut off your conscious mind and do the work on your subconscious mind, because practitioner knows what to do. well, not all practitioners, but practitioners who really know what to do. What they do, they just go there and they don't even care what the event is. They don't even know. They don't need to know. You don't need to know. I don't need to know, right? Nobody needs to know really,
Yeah.
because what's the point of knowing? It's not going to do anything. The goal is liberate that, erase that from your subconscious somehow, because oftentimes our subconscious mind literally takes things the wrong way, because that could be because of previous associations, previous beliefs, previous experiences, previous events that happened in the past. So the correct memory might not even be what exactly happened. So see, the more I get into subconscious mind, there is so much more there. But for people who just need help, they don't need to know all this, because they're not trying to be a practitioner, they're not trying to fix people, they're just trying to get help, that's all. So for understand whether your cause is psychological, emotional, habitual, or biological, and then from there find a practitioner who can literally beat it for you, who can take you out of that place and put you into the new place today, so you don't have the suffering, and the process could be so quick.
Absolutely, I think that's a great idea. And think about this, guys. If you don't find the root cause of your problem, you can't fix it, because you can't fix a problem that you don't understand. And so these 4 cores are definitely the best way to go to start pinpointing what might be holding you back when it comes to your sleep. And I also want to say that if you figure out that it's a psychological cause, definitely want to urge you to contact Sveti. She's definitely helped a lot of people on this area. She's helped people sleep like babies, like literally after the first session. Like, it's amazing. She's got a book out that you guys actually, like 3 you have, right? You have a book and 2 others.
Yeah, I have a Fix My Sleep book as my main book, and I have 2 kids books. So I just really love this. They're so cute.
Yeah, so Fix My Sleep, guys, you should check it out if you can, if you want to learn more. And Sveti, unless you have anything else you want to add that maybe you didn't forgot to mention before, I think we can wrap up this interview and get people.
Well, we didn't speak about the biological causes of struggle for the next day, for the cravings and the weight gain. If you want to touch up on that, I can just quickly do that. So you see, when we didn't sleep well at night, okay, the next day, what happens to us? A few things happen. Our body systems are messed up. So firstly, our endocrine system is messed up, and we have these 2 hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. So let's see, if you imagine ghrelin being aggressive male, that's his job, right? And leptins being like a more feminine kind of person, or whatever, feminine aspect to it, where it's just a bit more softer, and they're together in the marriage, right? So they're trying to regulate each other. So when we are hungry, so ghrelin needs to fire up about 3 times a day, because sorry, my apologies, I dropped my phone. So ghrelin biologically kind of fires up about 3 times a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so when ghrelin fires up, we get the trigger from the stomach to the brain, say, I'm hungry, feed me, right? So response is go search for food. People look for food, and let's say half an hour after they've eaten, leptin comes in, or even during that, between 20 and half an hour, 20 minutes. So leptin comes in and say, hey buddy, I'm now full, let's go home. Okay, and the ghrelin slowly begins to kind of calm down and goes home, right? Because leptin came and took them home, right? However, when we didn't, and this is how it should happen, when we didn't sleep well, leptin can no longer regulate ghrelin. So ghrelin gets very aggressive, and it fires up all day long. And people have that cravings all day long, and usually for the bad food. They're not going to crave broccoli, right? Because that's not going to give them any satisfaction. But that's one thing. Another thing happens when we didn't sleep well. Our body has another marriage of hormones going on, which is cortisol and serotonin. So cortisol, again, being aggressive, which is fine because we need that sometimes, right? Serotonin is very soft and gentle, right? But they regulate each other. So when cortisol fires up, serotonin comes and says, oh, let's just switch off a little, right? And people get into a state of relaxation. When we didn't sleep well, these two are fighting, right? um, Cortisol is so aggressively produced in the body that serotonin can no longer regulate that. So, and because of that, we get so stressed and we can't control our anger, we can't control our emotions, we can't be in control of our body, literally, and we can't because we literally can't. So, and because we've been exposed to so much cortisol, our body craving serotonin, right? And the body has a memory of getting serotonin for food, because when we do eat good food, it gives us that release of serotonin. And when we do get that release of serotonin a little bit, we feel good. This is why we reach out for food. This is why it's called comfort food, because it gives us that comfort, right? But we reach out for it all day long, for sweet or salty foods, whatever food goes for you. But it's not enough, because ghrelin is still firing up. Cortisol is still firing up. They're not stopping because they didn't get enough sleep. They're messed up inside, right? So this is why people start putting weight on, and then they get emotions because I'm too fat, I can't stop eating, I'm this and this and this. This just doesn't stop. What's your view?
Absolutely.
What's your view on this?
Yeah, you're completely right. One thing that people don't know is that our metabolism actually has a circadian rhythm too, and it has a lot to do with the same hormones you just described. So leptin is essentially the hormone that tells our brain to send that signal that we're full, we don't need to eat anymore. And so what happens is that if we stay awake for a long period of time at night, then what happens is that the levels of this hormone go down, and so it cannot regulate ghrelin, which is a hormone that sends that signal of like, I'm really, really hungry, right? And so essentially our body starts going in this mode of, I'm hungry all the time, and we make really poor decisions because the part of our brain that makes irrational decisions gets overridden by the survival part of our brain, which just says like, I want to eat, essentially. So absolutely, I mean, sleep has a huge impact in weight loss. I'm not saying that sleeping will help you lose weight, but I'm saying that a lack of sleep will prevent you from losing weight, absolutely. And I actually, Sveti, my phone wasn't loading some of the messages that people were posting. So I want to thank everybody that has written comments, and I actually want to address a question that I just saw. It comes from Adam Love, and he said that we mentioned creating good habits for sleeping, and he was wondering if we could both elaborate on that, on like, what do you mean when you say creating good habits?
Okay, yes. Okay, so the good habits begin in the morning, right? They don't begin 9 o'clock at night before your bedtime. So you need to understand that you need to wake up in the morning. You need to alkalize your body, wake up metabolism, right? You need to get that body into working mode, right? You need to wake up and instead of drinking coffee on an empty stomach, you have alkalizing drink, like some warm water with lemon or a cup of soda, things like that. Do it right. And then you need to understand the food ethics during the day. When it comes to food is not just food, right? Food, you need to understand to eat the right food at the right time, especially morning and dinner time. So when it comes to food ethics, you need to understand that some foods just can't be eaten before bed. They can't be eaten at that time of when you're going to bed. It needs to be that specific plan in the evening time, like a pre-sleep routine. I divide the day into morning routine, daytime routine, evening routine, and then pre-sleep routine, because pre-sleep routine is crucial. And whatever you do in the evening, let's say from the time the sun is down, this is establishing how well you will sleep tonight, right? And so having food ethics, good food ethics, will establish how well you sleep. Obviously other things too, but this is where you begin. You see, you need to understand that some foods could be aggravating to our body systems, and some foods have melatonin and help you produce even more melatonin, right? So instead of taking melatonin tablets, why don't you just eat food that contain natural melatonin? Or why don't you stop doing things that prevent you from producing your own melatonin? Because when people take melatonin, they forget that this is a hormone. When they start taking melatonin on a regular basis, they literally put themselves onto melatonin. They literally putting themselves onto the hormone replacement therapy. I understand there's nothing wrong
Mhm.
with melatonin for a short period of time, but not forever, because the body gets lazy. Body will not produce your own melatonin because you give it to it,
Mhm.
as well
Yeah,
as other hormones in the body too, right? So,
absolutely.
mm. So there's some rules people need to follow. Obviously, for those who have habitual problems, they need to change the habits. Psychology need to fix anything, but they do want to adjust their.
Oops. We're sort of like losing you a little bit there, Sveti. I think your connection is struggling a little bit.
Okay, sorry about that. Um,
Like,
is that on? Is that on?
yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
it's
back?
on. You're there. Yeah,
Okay.
yep, it's back. You're there. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just want to like add a little bit on the habit side because you mentioned the nutritional part. And besides sleeping, having good eating habits is also important for overall health, guys. Like, when we're talking about being health overall, losing weight or just maintaining a good body weight, it's so important to have good habits because, and I actually made a live video, I think it was yesterday, about habits where I give you guys three really good strategies for developing habits that will take you to achieving the goals that you want. Because having habits is really what separates the people that achieve success in whatever their goal is and the people that don't. Okay, these are things that we do every single day that become a part of our life. Okay, part of our daily routine. And when we're trying to achieve success, even if it's like being able to, let's say, sleep an entire night, right? These are things that are not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to start working on them, and you're going to have consistency. That's really the name of the game, is to have consistency until you get better and better and better, and you're able to do it essentially forever and ever. Once it becomes a habit, it becomes a part of you, and that's it. It's easy. But at the beginning, it's always going to take some effort, and it's going to take some discipline. So habits are really, really important. I also have another comment from Debbie Jane, and she said that she would like help, but she's not confident on camera. So, Debbie, if you would like some help, I definitely urge you to either reach out to me or reach out to Sveti. Send us a friend request, send us a private message, okay? And we'll be more than happy to provide you whatever help you seek, if that is on the insomnia sleep area, or if that is on the health weight loss area. Whatever that is, just please reach out to us, okay? Send us a friend request, a message, and we'll definitely help you on everything we can. So I think those are all the questions that we got. Hopefully, I'm not missing anyone. Thank you so much to everybody that stayed and watched the live video. Again, Sveti, if you have anything else that you want to add that we haven't touched on, please just throw it out there now. Are you good?
We're good. We can always do this again, you see. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm good
I
for
feel
now.
like I can talk for like
Well,
3 hours about these things.
yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
absolutely.
Well,
So
what I
thank you so
can
much
add,
again, Sveti. Yeah,
sorry, what I can
sorry,
add
I missed you there.
for people who are watching this, if you know can benefit from this video, please share. And if you find somebody can benefit from our services, please share, because you never know, you can change their life. You never know what you can do to those people just by sharing this video and referring them to us for if they struggle. You just have to end the struggle.
Absolutely, absolutely, guys. Just share, comment, send us comments and share. A lot of people can benefit from this video. There's a lot of value here. There's a lot of information, and we're doing this because we want to help you guys. I mean, this is for you. So I hope you all liked and enjoyed this video. Thank you again, Sveti, for joining us. I'm sure we've got a lot of likes. I've seen like the little hearts and the likes floating around the screen the whole interview. So I'm sure that people loved it. Feel free to, if you're watching the replay, to just write in the comments or send us a private message if you want more information. Okay, we'll be more than happy to talk to you guys. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up. Okay.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, and see you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.